Hello, I'm the Osmo Nostalgic Pharaoh King guy, here to check out cool stuff anywhere. And welcome to the little installment of Crossover Time. In Crossover Time, I have to review some of the latest good anticipating crossovers I just looked at. And if these crossovers are anything like the one that I just saw, it's gonna blow your minds, man. Seriously, blow your minds. If you haven't guessed what it is by the title of it yet, I'm of course talking about Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright is the actual video game crossover between the two series developed by Level 5 and Capcom. But I've been thinking, we've seen those two teaming up, but what's with the verses in the title? They should have renamed it Professor Layton Meets Phoenix Wright. Anyways, I'm gonna review this game's story, not the gameplay. Let's get this thing over with. This is Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright. We start off the game with Carmine Accidente, Professor Layton's student, helping a young girl named Isabella Cantabella escaping from those witches. But thanks to some magic the witches contend, the statues came to life and stopped them. This isn't Night at the Museum. You don't have to bring statues to life. So Isabella escapes, leaving Carmine behind. And we cut to Professor Layton and his apprentice Luke Triton talking about witches and witch trials. Then there was a knock at the door, and Isabella shows up. She said that she and Carmine were pursued, and she handed Layton the letter from Carmine. Said that he's now working as a PI and also investigating a town called Labrinthia, where Isabella is from. And the town was portrayed in the book entitled Hysteria Labrinthia. Then a witch broke into Layton's study, kidnapped Isabella, and escaped into the night. So Layton and Luke went to London to meet up with Inspector Shalmain, who was investigating an accident that happened in the park. It turns out Carmine caught in a car crash while being pursued by the witches. Having reported back to the inspector, Layton and Luke had been informed that the witches were spotted in the Tower Bridge not moments ago. This brought them one step closer to find Isabella and her kidnappers. After they saved Isabella and she hopped aboard a boat, Layton and Luke forgot to give her back her book. But then the book showed a picture of themselves in Labrinthia. And this is where they step right into the story of Labrinthia. After flying clear across the Atlantic, we cut back to Phoenix Wright and his quirky yet cute assistant, Maya Fey, finally found themselves in London. Phoenix got tired, but Maya was all pumped up and ready to get her sightseeing on. They're only here for the exchange visit courtesy of the Legal League of Attorneys, and it looks like they'll be defending Isabella, who's now accused of theft and assault on the boat. and the witnesses were Johnny Smiles and Olivia El Dente. Somehow, Phoenix and Maya had won the case with a not guilty verdict, but before they were gonna leave, they found the same Hysteria Labrinthia book that Layton and Luke found in the first prologue. This time, it showed a picture of Phoenix and Maya in Labrinthia, and that was how they stepped right into the story of Labrinthia. So, the two prologues tell us of how they were sucked into the book and ended up in Labrinthia. If so, I'll take it. It's cool. We now cut back to Layton and Luke woke up in the wagon, making its way through the woods. And they now finally find themselves in Labrinthia. It's like a medieval town, for crying out loud. They might be trapped here, and their first thing was to gather info in hopes of finding some clues. Then they saw the parade of the town's creator, the storyteller. But the townsfolk were all heebie-jeebie by the story that was distributed to them. It turns out, Labrinthia is all full of witches and witchcraft, where everything wrote by the storyteller becomes a reality. Just then, Isabella, who they left in London, came to the rescue from the pursuing knights. They made their way to the bakery where Isabella is staying. The smell of delicious bread, and I bet they make some delicious cupcakes with frosting, and Phoenix and Maya, they're here in Labrinthia too? And they're now bakers? When did Phoenix become a baker? Anyway, after they introduced themselves, they still continued on with the mystery. Layton, Luke, and Isabella went down an underground room and found a giant wall painting of the Great Witch with a huge fire dragon burning the town. Did that really happen? Oh, and Isabella was acting very funny lately, but enough of that. After that, our heroes finished dinner when a bunch of knights arrived with orders from the witch's court. Isabella was all to buy milk at the market, and now she's accused of being a witch? If she's guilty, the sentence is execution by being thrown into the fire pit? What the smurf? Are you kidding me? This is the witch's court? They're gonna put witches in the fire? Oh, and we then introduced to Inquisitor Bottom. Then Phoenix finally remembers being an attorney, and he better learn the bizarre laws of this world and fast. Oh, and Layton and Luke arrive with the Great Grimoire, a book that contains all of Labrinthia's magic. Without it, their first witch trial will not come to an end. It was the time for action. But then Kira, the flower seller, is accused of being a witch, all because she lost her glasses. And then she said if the Great Witch Bazella is cast into the flames, the witch trials will end. And she also thinks Espella is Bazella. Huh? And also, all those found to be witches will be executed into the flames. Oh, come on. He can't mean put them into the fire, right? So far, they managed to pull off a win and get a not guilty verdict. But I never realized it had to be this depressing. Now Layton, Luke, Phoenix, and Maya have finally made a proper introduction to themselves. It appears that Phoenix and Maya hailed from the same world as Phoenix and Luke. Now Espella might face the charges of being the Great Witch. Now they finally teamed up to prove her innocence. They also meet the High Inquisitor Darklaw, the leader of the Inquisition, and she also hates witches. There are so many mysteries and someone is moving behind the scenes. So Layton and Luke have been summoned by the storyteller to meet him in the audience room. It's funny that he knows the professor's name already. But it might be a trap for our heroes. Oh, and also, Espella is the storyteller's daughter. Meanwhile, Phoenix and Maya were investigating the incident with the alchemist. According to Grail, Sir Belduke's butler, the storyteller had been, I don't know, but you know what? I think that bell tower might have appeared out of nowhere after lightning struck that one evening, and Sir Belduke became intrigued or suspicious about it. But then the storyteller wrote a new story, and this was the following. A man from afar falls to a golden curse, and a woman afar cries out in grief. As they thought it was referring to Phoenix and Maya, Layton and Luke went to the alchemist's house to save them. But then, the unexpected happened. There was Maya shaking in cowardice, and with her was Layton. Turned into a gold statue? Oh my god! Oh my god, Layton! No! The words Espella's dad, the storyteller, wrote really did came true, and in the worst, and I mean smurfing worst possible way. Wait, I mean, a man from afar falls to a golden curse. At first we thought the storyteller was referring to Phoenix, but it was about Professor Layton. And a woman from afar cries out in grief. It's referring to Maya, whose very own witch trial is about to start. Wait, first Layton got turned to gold and now Maya's on a trial? That's crazy. Can I even make a joke about that? I mean, Layton got turned to gold. And Maya has her own trial here in Labrinthia. This is very sensitive territory, holy shit. I don't know what this whole game is going through. This is really starting to heat up. Speaking of which, things are starting to heat up in Maya's trial now. It looks like they're trying to pin that incident on her too. Oh, and Grail, the butler, is a girl. The butler's a girl. Anyway, Phoenix successfully proved Maya's innocence, but she helped Espella out of the cage, but ended up being trapped inside and dropped into the fire. Maya! So Phoenix, Isabella, and Luke quickly escaped from the courtroom. All they had to do now is to try to find a safe place where they can hide for a while. On Bottom's advice, they made their way to Rogue's tavern. When they arrived, they met Rogue, the tavern's owner and namesake. The thought occurs to me that she and Bottom might know each other. But at least they stayed here for the night and got some rest. Meanwhile, Darklaw is acting suspicious, and this event of the news story? What? Okay, I think Barnum and I agree that strange stuff has been going on within the story. Even storyteller making his own daughter a witch. Why in God would he write that? Son right here. This is very sensitive territory. Oh my God. This is getting way too much. The next morning, Phoenix and Luke got right back to investigating. They left Isabella in the safety of Rogue's tavern and set off to the marketplace, close to where the incident of the first witch trial took place. But then there was a big pink explosion, and they also bumped into Kara. She was supposed to be tried and executed as a witch. How the Smurf could she be alive? I had no idea what this happened, but Kara should have died in the fire. We've seen it with our own eyes, but she looked alive to us just now. If that's the case, then maybe Maya's alive as well. Now this could be their big lead. So Phoenix, Luke, and Isabella went back to the courtroom to sneak in. After entering a secret passage, Grail was still in custody. But thanks to her, they made their way to a fire pit mechanism. There's more to this fire pit than meets the eye. They had a big mystery to crack. Meanwhile, Layton had woke up in the forest and saw Maya being chased by a group of weird shades. They're wearing some kind of weird oxygen mask. It's creepy. Look at that. So then Layton comes to Maya's aid. It turns out Layton might have lost some consciousness after dealing with the Great Witch. Oh, well that makes sense. Well, that makes a lot of sense. At first, we thought he turned him into a ghost for real, but he's still alive, but was unconscious. Okay, all bets are off. If this game couldn't even represent the real magic of turning someone into a ghoul, not making off this whole thing, and the fire pit was more than meets the eye. I really don't understand this, but if you really had to count crazy fake magic all because you had to make someone unconscious and replace it with a gold statue, yes. Yes, you smurf it down! Anyway, so Maya and Layton had escaped from the forest where the Shades live. Across the lake, they see an old mansion and a large wall. They made their way inside to look around. While investigating the whereabouts of the Great Witch, they discovered a secret passage in a small room within the ruins, where they found the Great Witch. But this so-called Great Witch wasn't Bezella after all. She told them a place known as the Beginning. Well, then the Great Witch has thrown down the gauntlet. Oh, and I forgot. Barnum was there also, wearing the Shades' robe. Anyway, after that went well, Layton and Luke, Maya had finally been reunited with Luke, Phoenix, and Isabella. They explained to this the beginning, and together they were now all aboard to solve this mystery, with some puzzles along the way. They arrive in the final room of the ruins, in which they found a most peculiar pedestal. They discovered that the pedestal was used to house the Bell of Ruin. It turned out Beldug went to reveal Labyrinth's mysteries along with the truth behind the witches. As they discussed their findings and attempt to make sense of the inscription of the pedestal, Isabela's eyes flashed red before she ran away. Oh, and then she screamed. Seriously, kid, enough screaming. You're not a damsel in distress. You don't have to scream about your own vision. It's like she hasn't been herself lately, as if she's possessed. She kept murmuring, "I'm the great witch Bozella," many times. Then she ran off when they were trying to calm her down. They went everywhere for her. The ruins, the forest, etc., etc. They thought that she went back to Labrinthia, and if she did, the knights would have catch her and bring her back to court. So our heroes went back to town straight away to find Isabella. Oh, and Labrinthia was raining, but it was a sign of terrible things that'll happen. Oop. Speaking of which, Bozella used a spell to call forth a fire dragon that took the storyteller's life. Could it be that Kira's telling the truth at the first witch trial? And what did she mean? What did she mean by completing her task and not returning anyway? Anywho, Isabella is now arrested for the murder of the storyteller. Barnum has been relieved of his duties, and the final, and I repeat, the final witch trial is about to start. Layton and Luke were on their way to the storyteller's tower, where they hoped to find clues. They learned that Barnum told his dog Constantine that the tower is home to the darkest and most hidden secret of all secrets. And so, it comes to this, as our heroes knew that it must. The final showdown, the last trial, the trial of the great witch Bozella. This special courtroom was now set up for this trial, and it's full of people waiting to see the drama. Phoenix and Maya hold out till the cavalry has arrived, in the form of Layton and Luke with the vital clue. They even solved that crazy puzzle up in that bell tower. They even found Kira. But if she was there during that whole incident, she's gotta have some connection, right? And that's why Maya and Phoenix investigate the scene of a crime from top to bottom. Oh. Remember how Layton was supposed to show up with some decisive evidence? Well, no! He's actually now an Inquisitor. You see, they had Darklaw on the ropes. They drop-kicked her argument right there. But then, Layton burst in, saying that he can prove, conclusively, that the Spella Cantabella is, in fact, the Great Witch Bozella. There's no way they can give up now, but what do you do when you're up against someone like Professor Layton? Game? Come on! They've been waiting for Layton and Luke to show up. If there was anyone who could find some evidence to win this trial, it had to be him. But now, he ended up standing behind the Inquisitor's bench. It's like Layton wasn't on their side here. I might have to wonder what the Smurf was going to happen. I think I understand the meaning of this title right now. You YouTubers getting this? I think we all know what the meaning of this whole title means. If by counting that fan-dubbed Japanese trailer, that works also. Well, at least Layton and Luke had found a handmade book in Aspella's room and a photo of Aspella and Darklaw as kids at the bell tower. Well, anywho, it looks like they have a surprise witness on their hands, the storyteller himself. Then again, nothing surprises me anymore. And so, the truth behind Labrinthia, the legendary fire, witches, magic, and Bazella are about to be revealed. It was time to end this and give Labrinthia the fresh start it deserves and solve its mysteries. Alright, let's get the truth over with. It turns out the storyteller is also the president of this Labrinthia Inc. You see, Labrinthia Inc. is a global pharmaceutical company with London as a headquarters, and its founder was Arthur Cantabella. Wait. The storyteller's name is Arthur? I mean, I know this game kind of blows your mind about, but it just kind of sticks out the epicness once you know that, right? The whole entire thing was created by a guy named Arthur. Smurfin' Arthur. What would Arthur do? All praise Savior Arthur. Really? Arthur? Even Professor Layton had heard this before. But wait. There's more. Labrinthia was all a Smurfin' research facility, a private property of Labrum Inc., and it's also a project co-funded by the British government. Really? Smurfin' really? A government project? Oh, and also, the condition that everyone was unconscious, it was all Smurfin' groundwater. That explains why everyone has that condition, and it brainwashes people. Double also, the shades ring the bells to stop time, and they go wild with these machines making all sorts of illusions of magic. So everyone falls unconscious and the shades did all the work? Well, that explains why we thought Layton was turned to gold. It turns out Professor Layton was unconscious and there was a gold statue of him. Oh my god! And the fire was all popped out by the machine. And all this time, the storyteller, or should I call him Arthur, had just wrote this whole story for about 10 years that was entitled Hysteria Labrinthia. And triple also, the gas, the ink vapor, it was a trick of brainwashing. They believed anything they told and read. The pages of the story written in that ink were done so that everyone would be in a hypnosis. That explains the parades. It turns out Labrinthia used hypnosis to control people. And the government was supporting that? But wait! There's more. The people who live here were subjected to this experiment all this time. They signed a contract with Labrinthia to have our memories erased and be used like pawns in a story. I don't remember them signing no contract, but the people were not amazed with their own lives, and they wanted to start anew. So they all agreed to participate in this little research. They gave them new identities and a chance to start their lives again. That's insane! This whole place was uninhabited before Arthur and Labrinthia started this research 10 years ago. They managed to keep everyone in a state of hypnosis. But wait! There's more! Just when you think this whole truth couldn't get any more shocking, you can but thank the storyteller enough was that he was once a young child and seeing this as a poor old town, made friends with Newton Belduke, who was the alchemist, and they discovered ancient stuff like the seal of the Big Bell of Ruin, and they made a huge success with Labrinthia Inc. and made a fortune. But everyone in that town just died. Smurfin died. But triple also. Bazella was the name of a witch from an ancient legend they read in the ruins. She's just a fictional character. Magic was nothing but a mere illusion. There are no witches. And the legendary fire, it was a story also. Oh, and Darklaw was the great witch this whole time. He's also Eve Belduke, Newton's daughter. You see, Eve was the one who rang the bell when she and Espella were kids. And when she did, Espella went unconscious, and then she woke up and saw this so-called fire dragon on that little gate thingy. But whatever, that nightmare was too much for Espella and Eve to take in. Their young minds needed to protect themselves. And that's why they subconsciously repressed those memories. Eve was pinning the blame on Espella for the past 10 years. Let me tell you something, Darklaw or Eve. Maybe you should have thought of that, all because you planned this whole thing because your father wasn't there for you. What? The Smurf? This is crazy. None of the possible meaning of these plot holes. All of this stuff makes sense. It's pure crazy. So then the sun began to rise. And when it does, its light will reveal the whole truth behind Labrinthia's mysteries. And so they used the final spell to put an end to this whole mishap. Okay, it's perfect that this spell is perfectly necessary. It's good that you see it. Ready, set, go. And a 1, 2, and a 3. Talenda. What? Wait. Let's get something straight here. All this time, Labrinthia was full of stories, witches, witchcraft, magic illusions, all of them hooked up. But you're smurfing telling me it was all full of machinery? It was all built by those machines? But the good thing is, they finally get a not guilty verdict in the final witch trial. So Eve, Belduke, and Espella finally forgive each other. Darklaw told Layton that she needed him to solve Labrinthia's mysteries. Phoenix's arrival was accidental and wasn't planned. I can't believe his pride has suffered yet another blow. And the best part of this whole thing is, the judge now understands that Labrinthia was an artificial creation of the storytellers. But nonetheless, to them Labyrinthians, the past 10 years were real. And it is possible that some people would want to stay. He is no longer the judge, but it's crucial he would like to remain here. And Arthur doesn't need to address him as Your Honor anymore. And so, the last witch trial had drawn to a close. But the storyteller, or Arthur, promised Isabella that once everyone recovered their memories and that he's cured of his illness, he'll be back to write a new story with everyone's help. And that it'll be real with no lies or illusions. So Layton, Luke, Phoenix, and Maya say goodbye to everyone of Labrinthia. Shook hands on a job well done. And the game credits brings up. So that was Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright, and I feel like I did a very long review. This game is very long due to the Phoenix Wright and Professor Layton game elements in there. If this whole game would have been a great movie on DVD, and then that was adapted into a junior novel of the video game and the graphic novel of the video game, we would be amazed and buy it right now. I forgot something. I think that company Bones did the cutscenes of it. And not to mention that there were the English voice acting. And you know what, everyone? We love this crossover as much as some people do. Oh, and there's also some extra content with special episodes that took place a year after the events in Labrinthia, aka the main game. They return to Labrinthia for a visit, and they also break the fourth wall and make references. And Miles Edgeworth is there also. And nonetheless, this game is very entertaining. I guess this is really cool and all. I'm the awesome nostalgic Feral King guy, here to check out cool stuff anywhere, and crossover time is still on the move.